Hi, I wanted to make a video talking about something that I just thought about the other day, and it's also gives me a good opportunity to warm my hands and my leg hands. So anyway, um, the the thing I wanted to talk about is basically how you really get into a position like I am with artwork and music and stuff. It's not an easy one because I think I suffer from something like dysgraphia or dyspraxia, and also OCD. So naturally, I can be musically like I don't know, knowledgeable, I guess you could say, just from those, to be honest, because I notice the irregularity stuff and whatever. And I'll admit, I don't know enough about music theory or even artwork for that matter to really understand on a professional level how to do it. But I always set out the goal when I started doing all this with the goal in mind that I wanted to reach a point where I was satisfied. And I haven't disappointed myself with that, to be honest. In fact, it's probably made my work better. So the important thing with setting a goal is you need to make it realistic and achievable. I think many people sort of put it very high, so they're thinking like full-time animator within a year. No, that's not going to happen. And even if it did, it's probably because you have like a rare talent or, well, I don't know, it's just chance, I guess. You sometimes have to be born that way. That's something that a lot of people don't tell you, actually, because I've seen people who have no art experience just make something good. Same with music. Like, even to an extent, like, there's a band called Def. The guy's called Chuck something. I can't pronounce his last name. But Chuck basically composed an entire album by himself. I think he did a few, I can't remember actually. And that takes a lot of talent, especially at the time that came out. You have to compose the drums, the vocals, the bass. Let's be honest, two instruments coincide, like the guitars and bass, obviously, but other instruments are something else. So that's always pretty difficult to learn. And it got me thinking about just where I am now and how I managed to get there and how I continue moving forward. So other than setting a goal, there's the matter of finding something you're really interested in. When I was in school, I had no interest in music really. I just listened to what was popular and that was that. But growing up, I often listened to things on the radio that my dad would listen to because that's pretty much all he had on. And it was like 80s and 90s EDM music. It was like the chill ones as well, not anything like the Rude Soundstorm, although that did come on a few times, I think. It was more like Baby D, Let Me Be Your Fancy, and Robin S. Show Me Love, stuff like that, China Khan. There was some really interesting artists at that time, which pretty much inspired me to get into like older music. Um, I still need to listen to classical having said that, but it's definitely made me more open-minded and realising that I realise that sometimes the older the artwork, the more inspirational it is. And that's generally a good way to look at things because I feel like a lot of newer things these days tend not to take inspiration as a result. It can sound like arse, and same with artwork to an extent, because it's not really inspired. It just seems to lack something. And the thing that could be lacking just varies depending on the thing it is. So, like, if you look at old school animations like Disney from like 1940s, 1920s, I can't remember what year it was exactly. But they're kind of rough, but they worked. They're pretty good for their time. But people obviously like evolutionised it, I think you call it. It's not revolutionised, is it? I don't know. But they pretty much kick it up a notch and they add colour, they add more frames to an extent, they make more exaggerations. So it just evolves over time, and if I recall, Japan was essentially inspired by Walt Disney and created an entire genre pretty much called anime and manga, whatever they are. I can't remember the original terms. These all came from inspirations, and that's how they got as good as they are. And the thing that we're lacking nowadays, obviously in the 21st century, is just that inspiration for various types of music and stuff. It's why music and artwork just don't seem as good. Although artwork can be really good, it's still, like, it just feels like there's something missing. I feel the same with most modern music anyway. I feel very lost when I listen to something like Lil Nas, I think is the name of the guy. Person who did the Old Town Road song. And thinking about artists, I don't know many sort of older artists. I know Van Gogh, I'd get them mixed up sometimes. Leonardo da Vinci. Yeah, he was an artist because he designed stuff. He was also an inventor of some sort. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I will certainly remember later. Obviously, after this video's gone out. That's generally like the basics of it. It's just finding inspirations that will drive you towards a goal that you set. For artwork, I tended to look into different areas where I wanted to specialise in. So, if I looked into various online artists, one of them was, I think, there's quite a few in divine art actually that quite inspire me. I wish I could remember their names, but I don't use divine art anymore, so I can't tell you. Look, certainly people in there that do inspire me, but also just general animation and artwork and stuff, comics, manga. There are quite a few inspirations for that, and the one that sort of stuck with me, I think, is just this hybrid style, like GB and human. So that's how I made character drawings, and that's just been my thing ever since. It's actually something that I can actually draw, which I can't do with many other things, to be honest. And I was also inspired to make anime backgrounds for a while, and they just took too long, so I stopped doing them. I realised it's a very difficult goal to achieve, and until I can find a technique that works, which is important as well, I can't make an anime background, so it's not worth my time really. So I've essentially stopped doing that. Although I have made some, it's not great though. You know, look at some of the anime backgrounds I've got on my wall with like wallpapers. It's just a million times better than what I've made. But yeah, it all depends on inspiration as well, and that's how you can accidentally find a style. And it's really impressive, really, because I think sometimes people don't have the inspiration, and that's probably where they're failing. And there are people who can make it without inspiration, but it can vary. Like, as I said, you're either born with it or you're not. And if you're not, you have to try and work your way up. And I'm very much not a firm believer in practice makes perfect. I think that's stupid advice. Practice at best will make satisfactory results, but I don't think it can ever be perfect. And the other flaw of that is practice itself. Again, everyone's experience is different, so you can't always get the same result, even if it's tested. There could be a study on it, I could be wrong. But that's just generally my experience, and really all of it is experience. It's not practice, it's experience. You know, you encounter an obstacle that you didn't have before, like for example, on some of my older images, when I did backgrounds, I had to make shadows in the leaves, for example, because characters are like near trees or something. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but to make some sort of texture for the ground where the leaves are showing and there's like a shadow, I needed to find a way to make the shadows look realistic, and also like grass and stuff. That also complicated things because leaves on grass look to be a complicated thing, but it's actually not. And you just use the same brush you used on grass, and you cut out the outline, and you do some in the middle as well, and then you do that with the leaf brush as well, and that just creates shadows. It's all to do with technique. Sometimes that's how you can make an image detailed. With music though, I was looking to inspiration like old school metal bands like Metallica at first, and eventually I grew on to like Kill Switch Engage, All That Remains. Trying to think of another one. Linkin Park to an extent, not 100%. There were just a few bands that are modern, and then eventually I got onto Periphery, Polyphia, not metal, but pretty impressive either way. And then Animals as Leaders. Trying to think of one's Parkway Drive, Architects, Hostess. My biggest inspiration, who I found probably about 8 years ago, is Demitory, a Tohu metal cover band. The earlier stuff is just incredible. It's something that I've been replicating, and I've actually sort of achieved it to an extent. That was my goal with music, and it's worked pretty well, I think. So, inspirations aside, I think the other thing to consider, because I also happen to play music, even though I don't actually play it for when I produce music or compose or whatever. The other thing is learning an instrument, and similarly with artwork, I think you need to find something that you can enjoy. I think one of the things I've noticed with playing guitar for over, it's probably like 9 years now, maybe 10 actually. With playing an instrument, or using a technique or whatever for artwork, you find that you're at a good point when you're having fun doing it. I think that's also a pretty realistic goal too, because if you're not having fun with it, you're probably not going to make something that's great. Like fun is something that you just find naturally with something. It depends what it is. It certainly exists, and in my case, I found it when I started playing a lot of music, sort of on guitar. I tend to find the sort of more boring songs actually boring. Sometimes not boring, but they're actually just not very fun to play, and that's how I learned how to play guitar. Doing scales, on the other hand, is boring as fuck, and I think ideally people should just be finding riffs and repeating them, basically. And that's how you find how to play that very well. So it's not necessarily about scales, it's about finding something that sounds good. And likewise with artwork, if you can find a way to draw that's somehow fun, like making references, or I don't know, like collecting assets, resources, whatever you call it, that can be a fun thing. And in my case, I kind of had fun with the result and what I can also get away with putting in the image. Like I'm making a webcomic series soon that's called Events of Turn. It's basically a sci-fi based a few 100 million years in the future. It's quite ambitious from like a plot perspective, but I think it has potential to be really interesting and also quite humorous as well. I've designed characters to be kind of goofy, like all of them are pretty much goofy, and there's not really a serious one in sight. Actually, was the exception of one, but I think that's sort of a character thing. The series essentially is an inspiration of The Simpsons and Futurama, and to an extent King of the Hill. I liked King of the Hill's realistic explanation of stuff and presentation for that matter. It's also generally quite respectable in King of the Hill. Sorry, my voice is going. I think that's sort of it for advice. Now, I think with the rising threat of AI and generative AI, for that matter, I think it's important to remember the roots of things. Even if AI doesn't replace everyone who's sort of made a physical attempt at something, you've still got the roots to look up to and inspire. There's always a purpose for this, really. History sort of shouldn't repeat itself, but at the same time, it should be always trying to make for a brighter future. It's generally advice that I've followed quite closely for years. It's why I turned vegan, actually. I generally don't agree with eating animal products, and like, ethically speaking, I can never justify it. So that's why I've changed. It's the same with artwork and music to an extent. You can't always live in the old ways, but you can always try to do something different or even improve upon what they did. And that's also inspiring other people, and that's also the greatest honour. I think if I reach that point myself, I think I've done a pretty good job. There's more than I could ask for. I've already achieved my goals, but also getting compliments for it. So it's like, yeah. So I think that does it for the video. Or here, technically. I just want people to feel that they can achieve most of their goals by trying and experiencing things. It's not always like 100% foolproof. I think that's why I can't remember the term. But I think there's a way to achieve goals, and you don't need to do it by copying, but you can actually end up finding a result by copying, which is crazy. Just as long as it's not like a straight rip-off or something. Yeah. With that weird looming sound from outside, I think I'll end it now. Thanks for listening, and see you another time.